I want to very quickly look at this very strange interview. I didn't see this until yesterday. We covered, oh, sorry, I hit my microphone there. We covered this Trump rally that took place in Florence, Arizona over the weekend. We covered the rally itself and we talked about it earlier this week on the show. But there was this interview done by Newsmax of Trump, seemingly at the rally. And it is, of course, Trump's visibly sweaty and disheveled, his shirt's open. The guy's just a mess. But it is very clear that Trump is on a war path, on a war footing, we might say, against Mitch McConnell and sort of what he sees as the establishment Republican Party, not very favorable to him. Let's look at some of these clips. This is a very interesting interview here. Trump addressing Fauci and his handling of the pandemic.
We heard some lock him up chants for Dr. Fauci out there. What about holding Dr. Fauci accountable?
Well, he is accountable. He's somebody that has done some pretty poor work. With me, he wanted to keep it open to China, keep it open to Europe. We would have lost hundreds of thousands more people.
Now, it's important to remember that even, some of these things may be true by chance because Trump sometimes might sort of casually tell the truth by mere probability. But, the whole thing about Fauci wanted to keep it open. There was a brief period during which Fauci was saying, Mr. President, sir, I'm unsure whether stopping flights is really going to contain this. And Fauci was sort of right. I mean, so even every single one of these statements could really be looked at in more detail. And they're really not truths.
But he wasn't a big factor in my administration. But Biden has made him a big factor. And they have done a horrible job on COVID. Or the China virus, as I call it. But they've done a horrible job.
What would you be doing differently right now when it comes to COVID?
It's actually a good question. That's a good question from Newsmax.
Well, one thing, no mandates. The mandates are killing our economy. I'm convinced that when you have supply chain problems, you can't get paper, you can't get lumber, they can't build houses, they have no nails, they have nothing. And I think to start off with, the mandates are...
There is no evidence at all that vaccine requirements at businesses are what is causing supply chain issues. There's just no evidence of that.
Disaster, and people just aren't working. You can't get people to work because of the mandate. So that would be the first thing I'd do.
Almost a non-factor. As many of you know, we have seen that mandates ultimately lead to, like at most 0.5% or 1% staff loss. And there are many places where it's zero because everybody's obviously vaccinated anyway. There's just no evidence for what Trump is saying. Trump also asked about the situation at the border, which is interesting because, quite frankly, very little has changed at the border under Joe Biden.
We got a charged up crowd out there, and they're very excited to see you, very excited to see Kari Lake. This is going to be an important state in 2022. What do you think is the most important election issue for the voters of 2022 in Arizona?
I think the borders for Arizona certainly are. And that, the whole country is a border if you think about it. They're pouring throughout the country, but
not really.
For Arizona and Texas in particular, the borders are a terrible, terrible problem. We have millions of people coming into our country.
Now, understand that there has been no major change to the dynamics at the border in terms of people coming in, other than there was a period in 2020 due to the pandemic where movement in general was down. And so you combine the seasonality of border crossings with the pandemic, there was a lull, and then it resumed, and it started resuming in December of 2020 and January of 2021, even when Donald Trump was still president, continued under Biden. So there's the seasonality aspect and the pandemic aspect, but there's not been this, according to the right and people like Trump, the day Biden took office, everything changed at the border and it was like wide open, come on in. And it's just not true.
Many are coming from prisons of other countries. Over 129 countries, they said last week. There are people from 129 countries. It's not just like Mexico and Honduras and, et cetera. They had 129 countries.
So Trump's still very confused about everything, but as well as immigration. And then this is where it gets very interesting. Trump going right in on Mitch McConnell. This is clearly a battle that Trump is not going to give up on. And this is going to be interesting to watch throughout 2022.
When it comes to the leadership of the GOP right now, what kind of letter grade would you give them? Leader McCarthy and McConnell.
Well, I've been working well with Kevin, and we've been doing very well together, and we're working on the election, and I'd give him a very high mark.
Now, what that means is McCarthy has mostly remained loyal to me. in my insane claims that I really won the election. That's what Trump means by that.
I'm not a fan of McConnell. I haven't been. I helped him get elected. Without me, he would have lost his race. And then he goes and makes stupid statements after January 6th, which...
And what that means is McConnell has not remained blindly loyal to me to the same degree as I would like to see.
Was not my situation. This was just a stupid thing he did. But he's a bad leader. He gave them 2 months. That 2-month stay, that 2 months of adjustment gave them a power that they should have never had. So I'm not a fan of him, and I think he's hurting the party very badly.
So that is absolutely fascinating. And it is really clear, guys, that the Trump-McConnell battle is not going to subside anytime soon. Now, whether McConnell cares, I don't know. I don't know how much longer Mitch McConnell wants to be a senator. I don't know how much he cares. But as we get into 2022, with Trump endorsing people and the Republican Party, of which the Senate is a big piece, deciding how they want to direct resources and effort, including financial and public relations resources, this McConnell versus Trump thing could get very, very interesting. My interest in it is it's self-centered, quite frankly. It's selfish. I want there to be as much chaos between the Trump and the McConnell wings of the Republican Party as possible, with the hope that it'll mess them up and with the hope that it will make it difficult for them to do well in November. That's my priority. Let me know your thoughts on that. You can find me on Twitter at @dpacman. We'll take a break. And what a program we have for you today. One of our sponsors is Real Paper. Our forests on Earth remove about a quarter of the carbon that humans put into the atmosphere. And yet every day we're cutting down tens of thousands of trees to make single-use paper products. Real Paper is fighting back. Real Paper makes paper products that are truly sustainable. Their paper towels and toilet paper are 100% plastic-free, made without any virgin tree fibers, meaning no new trees are cut down. But Real Paper is super soft and durable. You don't have to sacrifice quality to help the planet. These are great products from a usability standpoint. I'm using Real Paper at home. You can do a one-time purchase. They also have easy subscriptions. All orders ship in 100% recyclable, plastic-free packaging. Everybody needs paper towels and toilet paper. Buy ones that you will feel good about. And they're giving my audience 30% off a subscription when you go to realpaper.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.